Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of NASCAR Underdogs, Scott Riggs. Scott Riggs is a former NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Craftsman Truck Series driver who competed from 1999 through 2014, though his racing career started much earlier, when he was 14 years old, in the American Motorcycle Association, actually winning the state championship in North Carolina 2 years in a row. At the age of 17, he began racing in the NASCAR Mini Stocks, finding success as well, winning 12 races over his first 3 seasons. Over the following decade, Riggs would remain in this series and would become a 2-time champion at Southern National Speedway. Finally, by 1999, Scott was both finding success in late models by winning Myrtle Beach 400 and the Thanksgiving All-Star Classic. The first, obviously, was run at Myrtle Beach, and the second at Southern National Speedway, as well as making his Major League NASCAR debut in the Craftsman Truck Series, behind the wheel of Robert Long's number 84 Ford at IRP in the summer, starting 7th and finishing 19th, 2 laps behind the leader. Riggs made another start a couple races later in the Craftsman Truck Series with the same team at Richmond in the fall, starting 22nd and finishing 23rd. The 2000 Craftsman Truck Series season was really the season that showed people that Scott Riggs could run well and finish well in the upper leagues, though he split the season up between 3 different teams throughout 17 different starts. He made his first start with Robert Long's number 84 Ford at Martinsville, starting 5th and finishing 9th. Then starting at race 8, Impact Motorsports hired him to take over the number 86 RC Cola Dodge. His best start was 3rd at Nashville in the fall, and his best finish was 5th at Richmond in the fall. For whatever reason, Impact Motorsports decided to release Riggs following race 22 at Dover, even though in 15 starts he scored 0 poles, 0 wins, 1 top 5, and 8 top 10s. He made his final start of the season in Bob Brevac's number 31 Ford at California, starting 31st and finishing 16th. After a season to really build on, in 2001, Scott Riggs was signed by Ultra Motorsports to drive their number 2 Team ASE Dodge. This was an excellent season for Riggs. His best start was first 7 times at both Texas races, Homestead, Pikes Peak, and Dover in the spring, Nashville in the summer, and California in the fall. His best finish was first 5 times at Martinsville and Dover in the spring, Kentucky, Nashville, and Ciaro in the summer. Riggs' season was very strong, leading the points for 13 weeks and spending every single week inside the top 5 in Craftsman Truck Series points. Overall, he scored 7 poles, 5 wins, 15 top 5s, and 16 top 10s, finishing 5th in final Craftsman Truck Series point standings. Following a couple seasons in the Craftsman Truck Series, in 2002, Riggs moved up to the Xfinity Series full-time, behind the wheel of PPC's Racing's number 10 Nesquik Ford. Harold Holley served as Riggs' crew chief. His best start was first, twice, at Bristol in the spring and Kentucky in the summer. His best finish was first twice at Gateway in the summer and Richmond in the fall. This was another decent season for Riggs. Overall, he scored 2 poles, 2 wins, 8 top 5s, and 13 top 10s, finishing 10th in final Xfinity Series point standings. This is also the year that his son Lane Riggs was born, future NASCAR driver. Once again, Riggs would return to the number 10 Nesquik Ford full-time in the Xfinity Series for PPC Racing. For 2003, Doug Randolph served as Riggs' crew chief. His best start was second, twice, at Richmond in the spring and Loudon in the summer, and his best finish was first twice, at Gateway and Nashville in the spring. Scott had a very solid season, spending 27 weeks inside the top 10 points, and spending 25 weeks inside the top 5 in points. The season was going so well that Riggs even led the points for 9 weeks throughout the season. Honestly, the only reason that he didn't win the 2003 Xfinity Series championship is because he wrecked out of the final two events. Overall, he scored 0 poles, 2 wins, 11 top 5s, and 17 top 10s, finishing 6th in final Xfinity Series point standings. Riggs found enough success in the Xfinity Series to land himself a full-time ride in the NASCAR Cup Series for the 2004 season. Riggs was behind the wheel of the number 10 Valvoline Chevrolet for MBV Motorsports. Doug Randolph moved up to the Cup Series with Scott to continue being his crew chief. The team did DNQ once in the fall at Atlanta. His best start was 4th 3 times, at California in the spring, then Talladega and Charlotte in the fall. His best finish was 5th at Dover in the spring. Really, there were a couple little bright spots, but this season was not good for either Riggs or MBV. Overall, he scored 0 poles, 0 wins, 1 top 5, and 2 top 10s, finishing 29th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. 2005 NASCAR Cup Series season. Scott Riggs returned to the number 10 Valvoline Chevrolet. Starting at race 14, Rodney Childers replaced Doug Randolph as crew chief for the number 10 Chevrolet. Riggs' best start was 1st at Martinsville in the spring, and his best finish was 2nd at Michigan in the fall. This season started out reasonably strong, but the deeper they got into the season, the deeper Riggs fell in points. Overall, he scored 1 pole, 0 wins, 2 top 5s, and 4 top 10s, finishing 34th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. He also made a one-off start in the Xfinity Series for ICE Motorsports in the number 30 Smith & Wesson Chevrolet at Las Vegas in the spring, starting 30th and finishing 21st, 1 lap off of the pace. For the 2006 NASCAR Cup Series season, the entire number 10 Valvoline team was bought by Everham Motorsports. Once again, behind the wheel of the number 10 Valvoline Dodge. His best start was 1st twice at both Charlotte races, and his best finish was 4th at Bristol in the fall. This season was an overall improvement from the previous couple seasons. He scored 2 poles, 0 wins, 1 top 5, and 8 top 10s, finishing 21st in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. In the Xfinity Series, he made 7 starts for Ray Evernham's number 9 Dodge team. Really, for the opportunity that he had, Riggs really didn't take full advantage of it, though he ran reasonably. His best start was 1st at Dover in the fall, and his best finish was 6th at Bristol in the spring. Overall, Riggs scored 1 pole, 0 wins, 0 top 5s, and 3 top 10s. In 2007, Ray Evernham and Everham Motorsports signed Riggs to another one-season contract. In some ways, I bet in hindsight that both he and Rodney Childers wish they would have decided to sign with any other team rather than to stay and continue to compete for Everham Motorsports. One that was really on the decline. Once again, Riggs was behind the wheel of that number 10 Valvoline Stanley Tools Dodge. They were pretty off the pace, DNQing 6 times. His best start was 3rd twice, at Richmond in the spring and Kansas in the fall. His best finish was 8th at Martinsville in the spring. Even without qualifying for 7 races, he still almost got into the top 35 Nona points, finishing 36th. Only 1 top 10 throughout the season. As far as the Xfinity Series, Riggs made 4 more starts in Everham's number 9 Dodge. His best start was 10th at California in the spring, and his best finish was 14th at Loudon in the summer. A brand new year, 2008, and for Scott Riggs, he had a brand new ride in the NASCAR Cup Series. He was behind the wheel of the Haas CNC number 66 State Water Heaters Chevrolet full-time. Booty Barker served as his crew chief. This season was slightly better than the season prior. His best start was 4th at Loudon in the summer, and his best finish was 7th at Talladega in the fall. Overall, scoring 1 top 10 and finishing a slightly improved 31st in final Cup Series point standings. For several years, Scott jumped from low-end ride to low-end ride. And by low-end, I mean a, backmarker team, like a low-funded team. Doesn't mean they're bad, necessarily. It doesn't mean that they don't want to win. Doesn't mean that they're not competitive. It doesn't mean they're not dedicated. Doesn't mean that they don't put in, all the work. It's really, it all boils down to money. Okay, so in other words, sponsorship. Or in other words, a funds. In 2009, that sadly didn't change as Tommy Baldwin Racing let Scott attempt 12 races in his number 36 Toyota, only qualifying for 8 of them. Riggs' best start was 17th and his best finish was 25th, both coming at Daytona in the spring. Another new decade for Scott Riggs. He only made 2 NASCAR Cup Series starts for 2 different teams. The first start was for Keyed Up Motorsports, the number 90 Chevrolet at Phoenix in the fall, starting 35th and finishing 28th. In Phil Parsons' Prism Motorsports in a number 66 Toyota at Bristol in the fall, he started 32nd and he finished 42nd after transmission issues ended his day on lap 32. He did D&Q 4 times throughout the season also. The Xfinity Series saw him make 6 starts for 2 different teams. He began the season driving the number 09 Toyota for Robbie A. Benton Racing, attempting the first 5 races of the season. Riggs D&Q'd at the spring Bristol race, unfortunately. His best start was 20th and his best finish was 14th, both coming at Las Vegas in the spring. He also made 2 starts in Richard Childress Racing's number 21 Zaxby's Chicken Chevrolet. His best start was 5th at Kentucky in the spring, and his best finish was 9th twice at Nashville and Kentucky, both in the spring. Overall, in 5 starts, he scored 2 top 10s. Nothing really improved, unfortunately, for Scott Riggs in 2011 in NASCAR. He attempted 9 NASCAR Cup Series races for Whitney Motorsports in their number 81 Chevrolet, a new yet underfunded team. His best start was 36th at Kansas in the spring, and his best finish was 42nd 3 times at Kansas in the spring and Michigan and Kentucky in the summer. Back in the Xfinity Series, Riggs made 12 starts behind the wheel of Richardson Racing's number 03 and number 23 Chevrolets. His best start was 22nd at Kansas in the fall, and his best finish was 13th at Rockingham in the spring. The Craftsman Truck Series was no better. He made 1 start for SS Greenlight Racing at Kansas in the spring, and their number 07 Toyota, starting 28th and breaking a rear gear on lap 4 and finishing 36th. That following season, 2012, Riggs returned to the NASCAR Cup Series, attempting the full schedule behind the wheel of the Robert Richardson's number 23 North Texas Pipe Chevrolet. Greg Connor served as his crew chief. His best start was 23rd at Michigan in the spring, and his best finish was 37th at Dover in the spring. This turned out to simply be a full-time start and park deal. It was sad. The Xfinity Series saw Scott make 12 starts for Rick Ware Racing's number 12, number 15s, and number 75s, Chevrolets, and Fords. His best start was 25th at Bristol in the fall, and his best finish was 34th at Loudon in the summer. Riggs also made 1 start for Mark Harmon at Kentucky in the summer, starting 29th and finishing 37th. The other start Riggs made was for Robert Richardson in a 03 Chevrolet at Texas in the fall, starting 32nd and finishing 34th. In the Craftsman Truck Series, Riggs made 6 starts for 4 different teams. 1 for Bill Agler in a number 86 at Kentucky in the spring, 3 for Mark Harmon in his number 74 Chevrolet, and his best start was 27th in Atlanta in the summer, and his best finish was 32nd at Pocono in the spring. Then he made 1 start for RSS Racing's number 5 at Michigan in the summer, starting 19th and finishing 32nd. Then Robbie Benton had Riggs make 1 start in a number 92 Chevrolet at Martinsville in the fall, starting 23rd and finishing an impressive 5th. Overall, in 6 starts, he scored 0 poles, 0 wins, 1 top 5, and 1 top 10. In 2013, Scott Riggs would make his final 7 NASCAR Cup Series starts of his career, behind the wheel of a number 44 Ford for Extreme Racing, though it was just a start and park deal. Yet again, starting no better than 38th twice at California and Martinsville in the spring, and finishing no better than 41st twice at California and Pocono in the spring. They DNQ'd 5 times along the way as well. Scott also made his final 3 starts of his career in the Xfinity Series for 2 different teams. 2 for Rick Ware Racing's number 15 and number 23 Fords. His best start was 29th and his best finish 20th, both coming at Bristol in the spring. Then he made 1 start in Curtis Key's number 47 Chevrolet at California in the spring, starting 25th and finishing 39th. Then back in the Craftsman Truck Series, Scott made 8 starts, 7 for Robbie Benton's number 92 Chevrolet. His best start was 18th at Daytona in the spring. His best finish was 9th at Martinsville in the fall. Then Riggs made 1 start for RSS Racing's number 38 Chevrolet at Michigan in the spring, starting 28th and finishing 29th. Overall, in 8 starts, he scored 1 top 10. Scott Riggs would make his final 2 career Craftsman Truck Series starts in 2014, behind the wheel of Robbie Benton's number 92 Ford. His best start was 18th at Charlotte in the spring, and his best finish was 13th at Dover in the spring. Riggs really looked like he could be a huge NASCAR star in the early 2000s, though he just never got the opportunity in the right or quality equipment. The talent was there, though. His son Lane Riggs is climbing the NASCAR ladder as we speak. Currently, as of the beginning of the 2025 Craftsman Truck Series season, Lane as the driver of Front Row Motorsports number 38 Ford, obviously in the Craftsman Truck Series. Already a winner, he looks like he could really become a star one day soon, maybe even a Cup Series star. Scott Riggs made 208 NASCAR Cup Series starts, scoring 3 poles, 0 wins, 4 top 5s, and 16 top 10s, with the best points finish of 20th in 2006. In the Xfinity Series, he made 115 starts, scoring 3 poles, 4 wins, 19 top 5s, and 35 top 10s, with the best points finish of 6th in 2003. Now, in the Craftsman Truck Series, he made 60 starts, scoring 7 poles, 5 wins, 16 top 5s, and 26 top 10s, with the best points finish of 5th in 2001. Thanks for watching, everyone, and take care.